What does saving grace, Madonna, corgis, and chai tea have in common? Por fin, another episode of Bridgerton. Cheerio, everyone. Good day to you all. This is Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And at last, I am coming to you all with another episode of Bridgerton, Season 2, Episode 1, our season premiere, Capital R. Rake. This episode was directed by Tricia Brock. She's a director, producer, and writer. She's previously directed for shows like The L Word, Saving Grace, Margot vs. Lily, Younger, and Mozart in the Jungle, among several others. And our writer for this episode is Chris Van Dusen, who is the creator, executive producer, and showrunner of Bridgerton. And now, let us commence. Once again, we set our scene in London, Grosvenor Square, 1814. Yes, we are finally back. And it feels good. And if you're new to the channel, then no, I am not a Brit. I'm an unofficial Brit for the intros, but that's about it. So we are jumping back in a year later, and we see that the social season has commenced once again. And it appears that the Bridgerton family has another eligible young lady who will be presented to the Queen. And that is none other than Eloise, who, let's be honest, is probably the worst candidate for this. Now, if you have forgotten, Eloise is very much anti-society, anti-establishment. She is not here for the roles that this very oppressive society have placed on women. For all intents and purposes, she is a woman who is very much ahead of her time. Yet and still, she must be presented. The same cannot be said for anyone at the Featherington household. Now, on a positive note, we discover that Philippa is betrothed to Mr. Finch. But considering that she doesn't have a dowry, that may not have a happy ending. In the meantime, the rest of them can only wait until the new Lord Featherington arrives. We then see the various ladies being presented to the Queen at the palace. And much like last season, she looks like she'd rather be anywhere else but here. Finally, Eloise is presented, and it's not looking too good. It actually looks like she's about to faint. But in the nick of time, she is saved when the newest copy of Lady Whistledown's circular hits the palace. And the Queen has been waiting for this for a minute now. So the rest of this whole presentation, adios. We then hear a very familiar voice say, "Dearest gentle reader, did you miss me?" We then hit our title credit, which I always enjoy, and we then see that Lady Whistledown's circular is quickly making the rounds across town. As you may recall, we did discover in last season's finale that Penelope was the woman behind the pen. And no, the irony of Penelope's nickname being Pen and her using a pen as Lady Whistledown was not lost on me. We also get a brief glimpse into Penelope's process for getting the circular printed. This includes her disguising herself as an Irish servant carrying out the needs of her mistress. As far as the current Viscount Bridgerton, aka Anthony, he is currently on the prowl, whether he likes it or not. He has compiled an index of the season's most eligible women, and he is arranging interviews. We then see these interviews play out as a classical rendition of Stay Away by Nirvana plays in the background. It looks like no matter how many questions that he asks, he's really not satisfied with the current selection. I was so through with that entire sequence. I especially was cracking up during that one scene where Anthony is speaking to the young woman who is describing the beauty of the heart. And he's like, "But do you read?" She's like, "Books." I was so done. And I already knew she was out because I'm pretty sure Anthony is not here for illiteracy. However, things get shaken up a little bit when he's out riding in the early mornings and then sees what looks like a woman who has lost control of her horse. Naturally, he chases after her, attempting to assist her. However, it is clear that this woman is not in need of assistance, especially when she not only outraces him, but clears an entire hedge. He briefly catches a glimpse of her face before she rides off, only to run into him again. He's asking her a lot of questions, and she obviously doesn't have the patience for that. And once he makes it clear to her that she is riding in the wrong direction, she rides off once again without telling him her name. We then jump over to Lady Danbury's house, my favorite of course, and we're introduced to Lady Mary and her daughter Edwina. Oh, and surprise, surprise, we also see the young woman that was speaking to Anthony earlier. Her name is Kate, and together they are the Sharma family. Oh, and we can't forget about Newton, who is Kate's corgi. I must say, I really love corgis. Every time I see them, I automatically get a smile on my face. Like, they're so short, and they have like these round bodies and these ears that stick out, and they always look just kind of like happy and jolly. They look like really pleasant dogs to have around. We discover that Lady Danbury will be sponsoring the Sharmas for the season, and she specifically is taking Edwina and Kate under her wing. So that means French tutors, dance instructors, the works. However, Kate poses a challenge because at the age of 26, she is already considered an old maid. I mean, I could act surprised, but I'm not. I'm very familiar with the history of marriage, and many women were married off at shockingly young ages, and I'll just leave it at that. But it doesn't matter, because Kate makes it clear that she's not here to find a husband. She also makes it clear that not only is Edwina fluent in French already, she's also accomplished in Latin and Greek, in addition to Marathi and Hindustani. She also plays the sitar, maruli, and pianoforte, and when it comes to dancing, she excels there as well. All of this are skills that Kate has taken it upon herself to teach to her sister. In other words, Kate is letting Lady Danbury know, I got this. We then jump over to our friendly duo, Penelope and Eloise, and surprisingly, Eloise seems to have gotten over her obsession with Lady Whistledown. In fact, she's been perfectly fine with her silence these last 10 months. It's even given her an opportunity to read articles of substance. It's clear to Eloise that the only reason that Lady Whistledown is able to provide all this commentary on society is because she's not an active participant of it. Oh, Penelope. Shots fired. Next, we see the first ball of the season, hosted by the one and only Lady Danbury. Listen, I am a sucker for great architecture and production values and set designs. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, yes, 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 yes. I'm here for all of it. And the building that we're seeing is known as the Great Conservatory. It's located in Syon Park in Brentford, which of course is in the UK, and it was built in 1826. And Syon Park is the garden of Syon House, which is the London home of the Duke of Northumberland. Now, that title I am very familiar with because not only am I a huge history buff, I am also a huge Tudor history buff. Which means that I know that the first Duke of Northumberland, John Dudley, attempted to install his cousin Lady Jane Grey on the English throne after the death of King Henry VIII. As a result, he was later executed by Queen Mary I for high treason. But I digress. Jumping back to the ball, we see Kate and Edwina entering as the quartet version of Material Girl by Madonna plays in the background. Lady Danbury makes her way over to the Queen to introduce the Sharmas. However, it is very obvious that the Queen is still holding a grudge against Lady Mary for her unannounced departure many years prior. In fact, we hear from Lady Cowper that Lady Mary was actually the incomparable of her season, but she fell in love and married a clerk who already had a child of his own. Then they departed to India together. The Bridgertons also arrive, and Violet takes it upon herself to announce to everyone that Anthony is officially searching for a wife. As always, Violet has no chill, and neither do the many young women and their mothers who swarm him immediately after that announcement. We also see that Eloise, ever the forward thinker, has forged a bunch of fake names on her dance card to avoid having to interact with any of these men. Eventually, Kate takes notice of Anthony, who's in the middle of a very awkward dance with one of the young ladies. She makes her way outside for a breather, then overhears a conversation that Anthony is having with a few other gentlemen. And yeah, it is not a good look. He's talking about the type of woman that he's looking for, how he's not in this for love, and how she has to have good breeding and so on. Yeah. So when Kate hears that, she's like, oh, you're one of those. Unfortunately, as she's attempting to leave, she accidentally stumbles into a basket of gardening tools. Of course, Anthony hears that, he makes his way over, and realizes that this is the very same woman that he had that riding encounter with earlier. However, Kate is not one to bite her tongue, and she quickly takes him to task for everything that she overheard him saying. She closes all of that out by saying that his character is as deficient as his horsemanship. Good night. Whew, there are no words, but I must say what's really funny about this scene is that I'm finally getting the chance to see it in context, because previously I did kind of a, I guess, teaser reaction to this scene because it was showcased in Netflix's To Dumb event back in September. I had a really fun time reacting to that, and if you guys are interested in watching, I will link that somewhere up here and also down below in the description box. The next day at the Bridgerton household, we see Violet looking at fabric samples to make Eloise a new dress with none other than the not-so-French Madame Delacroix. Things get just a little bit awkward when Benedict runs into her on her way out. He's very excited to see her, and he hopes that they can hit up another party that evening, but Madame Delacroix completely gives him the cold shoulder, and she lets him know that her art comes before anything else. I guess that's the end of that. So throughout the episode, we have seen that Kate, unlike Edwina, is not exactly amenable to Lady Danbury's instruction or advice. But clearly, Kate does not know who she's dealing with, because not only is Lady Danbury very aware that Kate took her horses out for riding in the morning, she also knows that there is a lot more to Kate's motivations for wanting Edwina to marry. As it turns out, the Sheffields, aka Lady Mary's parents, have set some parameters in place. If Edwina manages to marry an Englishman of nobility, they will bestow a sizable dowry on her and also help provide for Lady Mary. Considering that they used their last bit of money to even get to London, time is very much of the essence. Now, if it were possible for Kate to marry to ensure this, she would. But the problem is, she is not Lady Mary's biological daughter. So everything that she has done for Edwina and taught her has all led up to this moment. This includes teaching her to make the English tea she so despises. Listen, I know that India is known for their chai tea. You cannot go from that and then drink English tea. It's no disrespect, but two different levels.
The tea is exceptionally good today. Who made this? Very delicious.
Now, what makes this whole situation even more complicated is that Edwina knows nothing about it. Because Kate knows her sister, she knows that were she to know any of this, she would simply marry the first possible man just to please them. That is something that Kate cannot let happen. She desires for her sister to find love without that kind of burden. We can tell that Lady Danbury has obvious reservations, but she won't say anything in the meantime. Then we see the Queen's Ball. With a little string pulling from Lady Danbury herself, we then hear from the Queen that Edwina is now the season's diamond / incomparable. Anthony is also there with Benedict, and once he hears that announcement, he latches onto Edwina like meat on a hook. The two of them dance together, and from Edwina's answers, he realizes that she's nothing like any of the young women he's previously spoken to. Almost every answer is perfect, and on top of that, she doesn't really seem to be shaken by his line of questioning. Everything would appear to be right on target. That is, until Anthony is introduced to Edwina's sister, Kate. Almost immediately, Kate grabs Edwina and takes her to the side to fill her in on her discovery. But good news, Anthony has decided that Edwina will be the woman he will finally marry. The problem with that is, it will most likely happen over Kate's dead body. And that closes out episode 1, Capital All Rake. I have to say, this was a pretty solid premiere. I'm excited to see everyone back. I would have to say that although Anthony worked my nerves last season, and I know I'm not the only one, I am excited to see like his dynamic, not just with Kate, but also with Edwina and his family, and just learning more about him as a character. I don't think that we're going to get the same Anthony this time around, and I can appreciate that because, like I said, he worked my nerves. But it's all good. Let me say that it is so awesome to see two brown-skinned, dark-skinned Indian Tamil actresses as leads. If you didn't already know, or if you're new to the channel, I am always here and I'm always championing dark skin representation because it matters and we need more of it. I think that Simone Ashley and Charitha Chandran, I think that they are beautiful, I mean beautiful women. Then as far as the story is concerned, I am really intrigued to see how Anthony and Kate and Edwina, how that whole dynamic is going to play out. I must say that I really do appreciate and enjoy Kate's motivation for what she's doing. I think it adds a lot of dimension to her as a character. She's not just the protective sister just because, and she's not just pushing her sister into marriage just because. There are clear motivations and there are a lot of emotional layers there as well, which I think is going to be really cool to see play out. And as always, please feel free to let me know your thoughts on this premiere. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.